Savior Outdoors gives me confidence that no matter what happens, what I take on the water is coming back home with me. With retrieval devices for fishing rods, bow fishing bows, action cams, and even one that can be attached to your other gear, they've got your whole arsenal covered. When one of these devices goes in the drink, it releases a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back, and the pressure-sensitive filter means that you don't have to worry about rain or dips in the water while landing a fish. At SaviorOutdoors.com, that's SAVUR Outdoors.com, you can use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% and try them for yourself. All right, so joining me today, we have Tyler Daniels. Now, Tyler Daniels is he is directing the Fishers of Men tournament series up in Central Ohio, and he's a truck driver. He is a dad. He's a husband. He is helping out at the church teaching youth, and he has a phenomenal beard. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Tyler, man, welcome to the show.
What's going on?
I am not too much, man. Just kind of in the calm in between the storms with the baby asleep, man.
Enjoy it while you can.
That's right. So, um, Tyler, man, go ahead, introduce yourself to our listeners. And tell us who is Tyler Daniels.
Yeah, like I said, I'm Tyler Daniels. 26. Truck driver, like you had mentioned. I run it's a Fishers of Men kayak tournament series. It's on 2 lakes here in Ohio. 2 small lakes. We have. I've only ran one of them so far, but I got a whole series set up. We're getting ready to launch our first one, the 1st of May, and it's this. I guess let's talk about me first on this. Kayak fisherman. I love fishing this lake. I actually moved closer to it. It's real small. It's only paddle only. There's no motors allowed on it. And I have Mondays off. And what I really love about it is the fact that nobody is out on a Monday morning. So it's just me on the lake, and it is just so calm and peaceful. And that's where I get to spend a lot of time with God and just being with nature. It's probably my favorite part. I'm a dad of a 2-year-old, a little girl, Scarlet Faith, and then a wife or a husband to my beautiful wife. And I teach youth group at West Liberty First Church of God here in Ohio. We have a pretty strong going church, and it's awesome. It's awesome. And other than that, that's all I do.
That's awesome. What age group do you work with?
It's high schoolers, mostly high schoolers and some middle school.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, anytime someone's working with youth, I always ask what's their favorite age group to work with.
I love teenagers, man. It just draw close to me. I'm not too much older to them. We honestly cannot relate to them from what they're going through now. It hasn't been that long. I graduated in 2015, and it's so much has changed between then and now, and what they're going through and what they're seeing in school now is ridiculous, and they just go through a lot. And I can relate to them really good, talk to them, and I have a good relationship with a lot of the kids.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I graduated in 2006,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, man, it's got some. They go through things that I didn't even know existed back then. So yeah, for sure. So yeah, and so tell us a little bit more about the Fishers of Men series. So, what made you decide to start a tournament series?
Yeah. So I was actually in a bass boat. Me and a buddy, we got a bass boat together, and we were in fishing tournaments, and that is my love. One of these days, I'll have another bass boat. We ended up getting rid of the bass boat, and so we couldn't do the tournaments. And I ended up getting a kayak. Actually, got one given to me by a guy, and I started going out on that, and um, started. I got another kayak, a bigger one, and got out on that, and I was really loving it. But I was missing the tournament. like going out on tournaments and doing that stuff. And there wasn't nothing really close to me. And I kind of thought it would be a really good idea to have a tournament for this Fishers and Men's series because it's right real close to me and there's no motors on this lake. And I think next year I'm going to expand on that. But the draw to this is Fishers and Men. Man, I'm just sharing the gospel is a part of my life, as part of being a Christian. It's what we're supposed to do. It's what Jesus Christ has told us to do. So getting out and actually sharing that and having fellowship and bringing people closer to him and bringing people to him. And I can't wait for the day I feel like God's maybe putting it on me that we'll put somebody in the water that, on one of these tournament days. That would just be a dream come true for me, just being able to get down there in the water with them. But that's what it's about, man. It's not about, honestly, the tournaments. Like I said, I still love it. But I kind of threw it because there's none around here and it's a way to reach people. So that's what it's all
Absolutely.
about.
So that is what it is all about. Let's talk about how somebody wants to fish one or the series. How do they do that?
So we had a Facebook page. If you just look up Fishers of Men Kayak, Central Ohio, you can find our page on there. It's pretty easy. You can message me on that. I got a tournament set up on Tourney X, and it's FOM Fishers of Men. If you just look that up, it'll have FOM 1 through 6, and you can sign up there and do all the tournaments, or however you want to do it, however many you want to do.
Okay. And is there any kind of like a angler of the year or anything like that yet? Or
Well, I'm trying to get that together. Um, I really want to do that. I've only ran one tournament before, and it ended up being really good. And this year I'm going to try to do it, but buying a house and everything's been pretty crazy. So if it doesn't happen this year, it's definitely going to happen next year. But
okay,
we're trying to pull that together, get a couple more sponsors to jump in and whatnot, and help out. So it'll happen eventually. I don't see
absolutely.
this tournament series going anywhere. So
That's awesome. So uh so you said there are six tournaments this
yes,
season?
there's 6 of them.
Okay. And they're spread out once a month.
Once a month. Yep, yep. We have a couple of them on Sundays and a couple of them on Saturday evenings. So the two, I think it's July and August maybe, or it's August and September. They're Saturday nights in the evening, kind of a little bit cooler, not too bad. So
That's that's cool. The uh night fishing or I mean even evening fishing isn't really something that you get to do a lot during a tournament, and it's one
yeah,
of my favorite times to fish. That as the sun is setting,
absolutely, yeah.
that's my favorite time to really get out there. Morning is great, but there's something special about
Watching the sunset.
watching the sunset, watching. I call it the shift change uh,
Yeah,
in nature, where
yep,
uh, the diurnal stuff starts going to sleep and the nocturnal
right,
stuff starts coming out. And
yep.
yeah, I love it. Um, but yeah, so what does it cost to fish a tournament?
So you got your Tourney X fees, which is $5.50. And this is cheap too. It's not, $100. It's $20 to enter. And then if you want to, $10 for big bass. So
Okay,
it's not, crazy amount. And it's just, we're here to have fun and have fellowship. So that's what it's about. You still get a good, usually it's first, second, third is what we pay out to. And a lot of our sponsors give um, other people stuff, or they'll go down to fifth place, just however. But some people walk away with some stuff around here.
absolutely. What kind of turnout do you typically have?
The last turnout we had, I think we had close to 20 guys. So it wasn't nothing too big, but I'm expecting couple more this year. We've had a couple of different guys really interested in it. So
That's awesome. So you this isn't your first year, right?
no, I've just like I said, I just done one tournament before last year. I was gonna do more, but just life gets to you. I was in the hospital for a whole week and everything just going on. Life hits you.
Right.
So I actually got 6 dates set and they're actually going through. If for whatever reason something happens to me where I can't make it, I have a couple guys that are gonna be able to back it up and come
Awesome. Yeah, so let's talk about you for a little bit. So what was it that got you started in fishing?
So my dad, he always fished, growing up, and uh, that's just something we did. And we had actually it was our pastor growing up. He had a small, well, it wasn't very small. It was a big pond, and always going begging our dad to take us. I had two older brothers, so always begging him to take us fishing, and that's just what I remember. And I had a best friend that lived down the road, and we have the Miami river that runs in his backyard. So we would always take catfish poles and go throw them out, chicken liver, whatever we had, hot dogs, and throw them out. And we'd have a fire behind us, and we'd camp out for the whole weekend. So that's what got me started with it.
That's awesome. So where you are, is it the Great Miami or the Little Miami?
That was a great Miami River.
Okay. I I only know as much about the water in Ohio as I do because of listening to podcasts with like the Tackle Talk podcast
Yep, yep. There's a lot of guys
and
that
Drew and
fish in Ohio.
and Brad Hicks
Yep.
and all them from Paddle and Fin. So um,
He's north of me, I believe so. Or no, he's south. He fishes the Dayton area.
yeah, so yeah, I sound like I know that area a lot better than I do.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, man. So yeah, what uh, it's interesting that you said that you wanted to get back into the bass boat side of things at some point. Um, because in my experience, everyone I've talked to, once they go kayak, they don't go back. So, um, what is it
It-
about the what is it about the bass boat that's calling you back?
so there's a couple. The thing about the bass boat, man, you get to go fast. You get to fly across that water. And we didn't. We had a brand new tracker boat, and it had a 115 on it. And then you'd pull up to these guys that are starting these 250 engines. Man, it's like a big block Chevy starting up when you hear those things and just hearing them crank up. I love that. And the blast off for tournaments, like just being able to go. A lot of times we did it one at a time and go behind each other, and being able to stand up, like you can still stand up in a kayak, but being able to stand up in a boat and be on the deck, it's different than a kayak. I still love my kayak because I feel more close to nature that way, but I still love bass boats.
I hear you. What kind of kayak are you in now?
I'm in a bona fide 127 SS 127.
Nice. I have not paddled one of those, but
Hit the
I
barge.
I I I love the layout of them. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of room. What I really like about it is that you can stick a bunch of rods inside of that kayak. I mean, a bunch. You can probably fit at least 20 rods inside of that kayak if you wanted to travel or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I just you look at the layout of that kayak and you can tell the person who designed this knew fishing.
Yeah. And he was a big guy. Because I mean, if I'm 6 foot, 200 or almost 300 pounds, man. I can stand up and fish out of it like nothing. So
I hear you. Yeah, I'm not a little dude either, so
yeah,
um I can't stand up in my kayak. I say
mm,
that somebody who is not quite as soggy around the midsection or quite as top heavy might be able to, but I can't.
You get in a bona fide, and first off, it's also got a taller seat, and that really helps out too.
For
But
sure.
they're pretty stable, and you can. It takes a minute if you've really never stood up in one, and then you stand up in it for a while, and you do pretty good.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I can stand up in mine if I've got a stand assist strap tied to the front,
hmm
but once I get up, I can't let go of the strap.
now my first kayak was an Ascend. It was the 12T, and I would not stand up. I've never stood up in that thing, and I wasn't going to try.
That's that's interesting. I hear a lot of people talking about how stable they are, and then I hear a lot of other people talking about they're not stable at all. So I
I
don't
guess
know
it depends
which
on how big you are too.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, man. So let's dive into the face side of things too. So you definitely wear yours on your sleeve and
Yeah,
on your
and
chest.
I'm sure.
Um, yeah. So if you are watching on Patreon, you get to see his awesome shirt. But if you are listening to the podcast, you cannot. But yeah, man. So what's your face story? What is it that you believe in, and how did you come to believe that?
Yeah, so it's really the same kind of thing that you got, the faith that you have. I believe in Jesus Christ, man. I believe he died on the cross for our sin and was buried for 3 days and rose again, and he's coming back. And he's definitely coming back, is what it says. And that's strongly what I believe in is the gospel. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I believe, you know, once you receive that man, and you got it. And it clicks with some people right away. Some people it takes a while. Um, I grew up in church, um, and I I was really good until I turned 18, and then once I hit 18 for a couple years, I got out of it. Did the partying and drinking. I smoked a little bit. Thought I was cool. 18 years old, did what I want to do. Nobody's going to tell me different. And got with my wife now that I have. We've been married. I think we'll be married for 5 years this year. And we drove by a little church on a Sunday morning, and we said it starts at 10:15. It was about 10:30. We drove by. We were like, well, we'll go back here next week, and we did go back next week, and just took off from there. We got into that church, got embedded in that church, and in that church building, because we are the church. And so that's where we started. We were going to that one for a long time. Really enjoyed it. Uh, Enjoyed the people. And then my brother and a couple of guys I worked with was going to this other church in West Liberty, and they had a men's group. So we started going to that, or I started going to that on Sunday nights, and the men there was so strong, it was unreal. Like their faith was amazing, and it was awesome. It was really good. So eventually I started going over to that church, and my faith really took off from there, and it just grew stronger and stronger and stronger. And nothing against the other church, because it was awesome people, and it really helped me out. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's awesome. So, um, what was it about that one church that while y'all were driving by that drew you to it?
Dude, I really don't know. We talked about going to church, and we just seen it, and it's actually an old skating rink. And we were just looked at it, and we are like, we seen the sign that said 10:15. We were like, yeah, we ought to try that out. And we ended up trying it and going for a long time. And so we need to be praying for that pastor. His name is Chris Livingston, and he got cancer, and they just sent him home, and he's got hospice there, and it's not looking good at all. It's pretty rough. It's hitting me pretty rough too, because he really helped build my faith and was kind of that starting point for me. And he married me and my wife, so it's hard to see him go through this and struggle. but I believe in a God that's a healer, and I'm not going to speak death into that. I'm going to speak life, that He can heal God, that He can heal Chris from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, man. And I
Absolutely.
believe he'll get out of that chair um, soon.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely be praying, and his name is Chris Livingston, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. I will I'm putting that in my notes here so that
Right.
I actually remember to do it. But that's something uh, that I talked about with I think it was with Mitch, who is the director with CCKF.
Hmm.
He a lot of times we tell somebody, "Oh yeah, I'll pray for you," and
Yeah.
then walk away, and that's the last time you think about it.
You
So
do it right there.
I I I I'll pray with you right there, or if for some reason that's not an option, I'm gonna write it down so that I remember.
Yep. Yeah. And that's one thing that's really different about this church, man, that I've been going to, and it's opened my eyes, is that if we come across that person, like you said, most of the time people will just say, "Okay, I'll pray for you," and then they just go on. Well, we're called to be different, peculiar people. And that's where we stop and we take the time. Nothing's more important in that conversation with that person right in front of you at that very moment. You know what I mean? And we can have an intimate relationship with Jesus Christ that they can see that through us. You know what I mean? And we can
Absolutely.
just pray over them right there. And like the healing, if I pray for somebody, I believe that they're going to be healed. So that's just how we are. And we're just a little different.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, um, that's a powerful statement that you said there. I heard a pastor say one time, um, that whenever you're praying for something, um, you shouldn't be you shouldn't be begging, you should be believing.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, and yeah, that's a great example that you just said. Whenever you're asking for healing, if you're believing that person's going to be healed, it's a much different prayer than whenever you're begging. You don't believe that's going to happen, but if you ask enough times, maybe it will.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a profound and powerful statement. But yeah, man. So uh, you're working with high schoolers in the youth group.
Mhm.
What made you decide to start that? Because I've been a youth pastor,
Yeah.
and I have asked many 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 people, if they would help out with the youth group. I know what that looks like, um, and I've gotten many many different answers whenever I ask that. So I want to know what it was that made you say yes.
So it was God in the middle of it. He put me there in front of a certain person for a reason. The Where we're going, there is a couple, an older couple that do the youth group. I can't. They're not really older. Um, but they were in charge of the youth group. They're the teachers there, and uh, one day I went downstairs because they were redoing the basement, and that's where a lot of the rooms are that the youth go in. And so I went down there to check it out, and his wife was right there as soon as I come down the stairs, and they were looking for some more people to help out. And it just so happened that God just put us right there together, and we talked about it. And she was like, "You should come down here and just see about it." And as soon as that day that I come down there, it was it right there. I knew that God had called me there. I'd been praying for something that God reveals something to me. And when like I said, when I pray for something, something's going to happen. And I expect God to move on it. And He does. Every time He is faithful and He moves on that. Just like when you pray for patience, you get a child. So that's just how it went about, and ever since that day, I've been helping out and teaching and doing that. And I think what I try to do different when I teach is visuals. Visuals are my thing, like
Okay.
taking them out and doing stuff or bringing stuff in and showing them. Like we just did Fishers of Men a couple weeks ago, and so I brought in a full arsenal of all my fishing stuff, everything but the kayak. So just and it gives them that image in their head that they may forget about it for a couple years, but something's going to show up in their life, and they're going to be like, "I remember this,"
Right.
and that they're going to have that memory of it. So that's what I love about it too.
Absolutely. And if there are youth pastors listening, that is phenomenal advice right there.
Get
And
them interacting.
well, I just in terms of asking for volunteers,
Yeah.
if you've got someone who's on the fence, invite them just to come. They don't have to
Yeah.
do anything,
Mhm.
just come and sit in the room
Yeah.
and let God do the rest. That's phenomenal advice.
And
But
I would say get on a personal level with them. Like I don't most of the time I don't stand up and talk to them. We get in our tables and I sit down and I usually go around the table and ask each person, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? Get that personal, relationship going with them. Let them know that you actually care and that you actually love them and that you want to know how you can help them or you want to know about their life.
absolutely. Absolutely. Just knowing that someone's there for you makes all the difference sometimes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, man. Let's see. I think we've touched on pretty much all of you, except the truck driving. Now, I don't know much about driving a
Yeah.
truck,
Yeah.
at least not that kind of truck.
Right.
Um, do you deliver for a particular company, or are you?
Yeah, so I drive for Walgreens. I deliver to
Okay.
Walgreens stores. So it's not a whole lot of, I mean, it is truck driving. I got to, go to the stores and whatnot. And it's a pretty physical job. I unload a trailer by hand. Each piece, I don't get, you know, dollies or nothing like that. It's a full trailer, boxes and totes, loading it and unloading it all day long. But it's a good job. God has completely blessed me with it. I love it, and so I can't be more happy about
That's awesome. Are you delivering to Walgreens all over the country, or?
it. Just in like South Ohio, Northern Kentucky, just those areas mostly.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you weren't going to be driving through my neck of the woods anytime soon.
No, nope.
All right. Okay, so you listen to the podcast, so you know that there are a few questions that we always ask everybody who comes on the show. Um, and my favorite one is, what fishing story or memory means the most to you?
And I've been waiting to share this one. My favorite and my first memory is so the pastor I was talking to you about that. He had a big pond at his house. I remember, I can remember going to his house. Had a beautiful log cabin house. You go down a really long lane, and you drive to get to the pond. You drive down a little hill of gravel, and you park at the bottom, and it's all gravel, and the gravel goes into the water. Well, it was springtime, and I was a little kid, but I know it had to be springtime because the bass were up spawning. Well, I mean, as I can remember now, they were up spawning because they were shallow, and you could see two of them, two bass at the edge of the water. And my dad said, "Do not cast over." He said, "Be real quiet. Don't cast over." So what did I do? I went and got the fishing pole and cast it right there, and I caught one of them, and I thought it was like a 10-pound bass. Being so young, I'm sure it was like 2 pounds. But that is the first memory, and like the best memory I have is me and my dad having that. And a lot of people won't agree with it, but I don't care. It helps. your water systems, we took it home and ate it.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of people, you're right, a lot of people don't. Um,
Mhm.
I, uh, I don't I don't do it much just because I don't like cleaning fish and my wife doesn't like eating fish, so it's not worth it for me, to do it that often, but I I do enjoy it and, you know, I I never eat the bigger ones just
Mhm.
because, 1, you want those genes to stay in the
Reproduce.
lake,
Yep.
but the bigger they are, the worse they taste.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Hmm.
I,
Right.
I like the little ones. They fit on a sandwich and they
Yeah.
haven't gotten all bland and mercury filled, so
Right. Yeah. No. So a lot of people don't realize it, but like the lakes around us, they have a lot of smaller fish in them, and they're not the greatest lakes, but we only catch like a 10% of the bass in the lake, period, and a lot of lakes. So taking some of those out is not bad for the habitat. And a lot of people think, oh, we don't need to keep the bass. So I'll keep the bass in there. It's not going to hurt anything to take some of the bass out, just like the crappie. The crappie reproduce like crazy, so don't the bass. And we eat crappie like crazy. At least I do.
yeah, for sure. And, another thing that gets me is, that there's only so much food to go around, and like, once you reach a certain bio load in a system, because so I'm gonna nerd out here. I'm just gonna do
Go
it.
for
I'm
it.
gonna nerd out. So I've been studying fish, mostly
Mhm.
for aquarium stuff since I was, like, 6 years old, so,
Right.
um, I in any ecological water system, you have what's called the nitrogen cycle.
Mhm.
And so when fish produce waste, it's mostly ammonia. And so there is bacteria that breaks that down into nitrite. Now, nitrite is still toxic to fish and everything else that lives in the water. So there's more uh, bacteria that break it down into nitrate. So nitrate is in small doses, it's not as harmful. Now,
Right.
once you reach a certain point, that those nitrate levels spike
Mhm.
and become harmful to the ecosystem. So you got to keep that bioload to us at a certain point. Now, in these really big lakes and everything, you're probably never going to reach that point.
Right.
Um, but especially in smaller ponds and stuff, once you reach that point, um, everything gets stunted.
Mhm.
And they're so like it's actually if you're arguing this on behalf of the fish, know that once they get stunted, their internal organs continue to grow, but their body doesn't. So they end up dying a very painful, slow death. It's kind of graphic there, but
But take
how
them out while you can.
um, so so it's actually a lot more humane just to you know uh, put them on the cooler and fry
I'm
them.
okay with that.
Um, but yeah, whenever you have a healthy ecosystem, and a healthy ratio of bait fish to bass and bait fish to predators, um, that's whenever you end up with these systems that can produce really big fish, um, and a number of big fish. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that was my little soapbox slash nerd
Hey,
out.
I learned something tonight, so that's good for me.
Um, but yeah, so whenever you're out fishing with somebody, man, what are you talking about? What is your typical conversation centered around?
Well, it depends on who I'm out with. I got a couple buddies that I go to church with that I'll get out with every once in a while, and we just talk about the goodness of God and what He's doing in our lives. And there's a couple guys that I'm reaching out to that I'll fish with, and a lot of times we just talk about fishing, what's going on, in our lives. And I always try to throw stuff out there. just when I can. But I don't want to set them off because I can set people off real quick by just going nerding out in the gospel with them, and I could push people away really quick. Um, so I'm just a down to earth person, and we just talk about whatever comes up, and usually not the fish sometimes.
I hear that. All right, man. Well, you know that we have a segment that we do with all of our guests. It's called What's Your Favorite? It's self explanatory. I'm going to ask you your favorite in a few categories. Um, so I, I think you may have studied up and are ready for them, but yeah. So let's get started with what's your favorite scripture?
My favorite scripture, which is what I got right here, is Romans 1:16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first and also for the Greek. And I'm going to go to 17. For the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. Just, I'm unashamed of the gospel, man. So I'm just going to go and preach it into the world.
That's awesome. And what about a particular story from the Bible? Is there one of those that's your favorite?
Yes, and this has always been my favorite. And it's when Saul turned into Paul on his way to Damascus. And, you know, God took a guy that was killing Christians, man, child, woman, didn't matter what. If he wasn't abiding by his, what they believed in, you're getting killed. And for him to blind that guy and turn his life around and write half of the New Testament of the Bible, he can use you and anybody. It doesn't matter what your background is, who you've killed, what drugs you've had, what women, men you've slept with, doesn't matter what. He can turn your life around and use you.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that the Bible does not shy away from the past and the unpleasant and the ugly of the people
Yep.
that are used by God. Uh,
Right.
it, it, the writers could very easily have left that part out, and they didn't. And
Right.
I I love the fact that they didn't, um,
Mhm.
because without that, it would be even more intimidating than it already is.
Right.
Yeah, man. So, what is your favorite fish to catch?
My favorite fish to catch is bass.
So,
Largemouth. Well, take it back. It's a toss up between largemouth and smallmouth, man. The first smallmouth I caught, it was in the or Great Miami River, and it come up. I just about lipped it and swam back down and broke my combo in half. And they just fight so hard, and it's a lose rod and reel, so they replaced it for free, and they just fight so hard, and they're so fun to catch.
awesome. Now, what about a favorite fish to fish for?
Bass, definitely bass.
Now, is there a particular one or the other for smallmouth and largemouth
Not
on either?
not really.
Okay,
I like them both.
awesome. I um I, I I say it all the time. One day I'm gonna get a hold of that smallmouth.
Once you do, man, you're gonna love it.
It's probably a good thing that I haven't yet because I live so far away from them. But
You'll be chasing them.
what about your favorite fish to eat?
Crappie, no doubt in my mind, and I will give you my secret recipe. And you might think it's weird, but my wife, who she likes fish, and well, maybe I can't say she really likes it. She's not a big fan of fish. She will eat it, and it's literally mayonnaise or Miracle Whip, whichever you prefer, and salt and pepper, and you fry it. That's it.
That's all.
That is it. It just makes it super crispy, and as long as you don't overcook it, so where it's burnt and it's flaky, man, it is just so good. And that's all we do.
Absolutely. I might have to share my recipe at some point. don't know if I'm ready for that yet. Um,
But yeah, I don't care. Mine's so super simple, and it was actually I did it on an accident. Like that, I was actually supposed to add flour after you put it in like sour. You can put it in sour cream too, and do it that way. So you put it in one of those, and then you put flour on it, and then you can fry it. But I just did that, and it without anything else on it, and it just had a super thin, crispy layer of it, and then it was the fish, and it just was very good.
I hear you. Yeah, mine's a little bit more to it than that. It's you use the dredge and the egg wash, and then the breading. But I make the breading with I crush up Ritz crackers
Hmm.
and put lemon pepper and garlic powder in it.
Yeah,
And I tell you
good.
what, I say it all the time. There's a few things out there that'll beat a good crappy sandwich.
Right.
All right, and what about a favorite fishing snack? Since we're talking about food and we're all hungry now, what's your favorite fishing snack?
Yeah, honestly, I don't. If I'm fishing, I hardly ever eat. If I was to take anything out, it'd be beef jerky. Just like everybody else, beef jerky. So easy.
I hear you. You got a particular brand you stick with?
No, it all tastes good to me.
I hear you. Same, same to that. I do have my favorites, but I think
Yeah,
home feed's the best. But my wife makes some phenomenal beef jerky. She
yeah.
hadn't done it in a long time though. I need to.
I grew up processing deer, and we always made deer jerky, and
That's
you
good.
can't beat deer
That's
jerky,
good.
man.
All right. And what about I don't need GPS coordinates or secret spots, but what about a favorite body of water to fish?
Uh, it's a little lake that we have here that we run a tournament on. It's Kaiser Lake. It's I don't even know how many miles. It's not a big lake at all. It's like a really big couple ponds put together, and just like I said, it's no motors, so no trolling motors, no nothing like that. It's just paddle, and you can use a pedal drive kayak on there, and I love it. And like I said, Monday mornings when nobody is out there and I can get out, that's that's where I like to be, surrounded by woods. Uh, That's awesome.
Awesome. What about I don't need you to give away too many secrets, but what about a favorite lure to throw?
Favorite lure? A frog, a topwater frog. That's my favorite. Nothing better.
How long have you been fishing a frog?
A couple years. I really got into it last year. I got the rod and a high speed reel and a good reel that can cast it a long ways. And man, just watching them things blow up on it, wait a second and crack them. Oh, there is nothing better. I absolutely love it.
Do you still jump every time there's a blow up?
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome though. I love it so much.
Awesome. And last but not least, man, what's your favorite time of year to fish?
Favorite time of year? Um, it's hard for me. I love the springtime because it's a lot easier to catch them, spawning and whatnot. But I love the fall time because of God's creation and the weather that it gives us, and the trees turning colors is especially out on that lake on a Monday morning, or in the evening when there's not a lot of people out on the lake, just watching that sunset over the you know trees turning colors. I love it.
Awesome. Well, we are going to start wrapping things up, man. If you would tell us, what do you have coming up for you? What's coming up for Fishers of Men? All that good stuff.
Yeah. Like I said, the first tournament is May 1st, and I'm getting ready for that. I've got my kayak all rigged out. And another thing about kayaks, I want to throw out there, you don't have to go all in on kayaks, especially when you first start out. I think every person that starts out needs a milk crate and needs some PVC pipe. And I think if you go out with a kayak, that's what you have to start with. And So that's kind of what I'm going through, is building my own crate and how I want it, and eventually I'll upgrade. But so that's what's up for me, is just the tournaments coming up real soon.
Absolutely. And want to give you an open floor to shout out sponsors or supporters, anybody you want to say thank you to.
Yeah, absolutely. I got you that you're throwing in some stuff for the tournaments for the guys and me, and we really appreciate it. There's a guy here that he makes the jigs I use are the soft plastics for crappie lures. It's Nasty Nate's baits, and if anybody knows about them, they already know that they're fire wherever you go. I use a little, I don't even know what it's called. It has three little prongs on the bottom of it, and it's got a red nose and a white body, and they slay the crappie. Everybody who knows him knows that that's the one that's on fire. Lyle's lead, he makes it. He actually makes some small jigs for that guy. He makes some good Ned rigs, weedless Ned rigs, swim bait jigs, and everything else. And there's a guy, a little younger kid that makes soft plastic. He makes them for the tournament, Wyatt's Wigglers. And there's also another young lady that makes, I can't remember her name right now. I need to reach back out to her, but she also makes soft plastics, and I think she's might throw in some stuff this year. So that's who we got. And like I said, I'm not sponsored by much, I'm in it to fish, dude, and to be part of that. So
Absolutely. And what about social media? Plug the social media for you and for the tournament series and all that
yeah,
good stuff. Where can we find you?
yeah. So I'm just on Facebook, Tyler Daniels, and then the Fishers of Men. We're on Facebook. It's Fishers of Men Kayak, Central Ohio. Just add us on or send an invite or whatever for Facebook, and we'll get you approved, and you can look at all of our stuff and what we got going on.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I thoroughly
Absolutely.
enjoyed it and had a blast, man.
Yep. Sorry about all the noise in the background. I'm sure you can hear kids crying.
Oh, same here.
So,
All right, man. Well, we are going to we're going to take it out.
all righty. See you.
With 30 years of experience of handcrafting lures under his belt, Mr. B of Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, jigs, underspins, swim blades, and more right here in the U.S. All of his skirts are hand-tied, and all of his baits feature a baked-on powder paint, all metal components, and only Owner and Gamakatsu hooks. All of his baits come in a variety of colors, and if you purchase a bait in the Battle Shad color, 30% of the proceeds go to the Wounded Warrior Project. To see the quality for yourself, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, to place your order and use promo code FAITH, the letter N, FISH, the letter N, POD, 1X10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order.